Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. This is a special bonus episode because I just could not wait. I had to talk about manufacturing. Y'all all have seen all of the different promotions from the IMTS show that I was at. We had such a great time at the Creators Lounge and just being there and seeing all of the great manufacturers. But I also got the pleasure of meeting Peter kind of behind the scenes. He was telling us about the show, and I just wanted to introduce you to him. So Peter, if you'll start by just introducing yourself, letting them know what you do there for the event.
All right. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. This is, I just mentioned, this is my first day back in my home office after the whole IMTS event, which for those of us that put it on is 1 month from day start to day end. And we are now over it as of Friday night. The last load went out. But you're right. I am Peter Eelman. My title is Chief Experience Officer of AMT, which is the Association for Manufacturing Technology, on my shirt here. And we are the owners, operators, sponsors, you name it, for the IMTS show. Personally, I've been involved in the IMTS show for 42 years. As first a participant, I worked for an exhibiting company, and for the last 26 years, I have been the head of IMTS.
Well, I think that was the interesting part. It was like one of your first jobs there was to participate and be a part of IMTS. And, I'm curious though, how one gets into the industry. So, and I know you've been in and you've been running this for so long, but can you remember back like what drew you to the industry?
Well, I can tell you what drew me to manufacturing. And then the second part is how I got into the trade show marketing side of the business. I went to school at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and Drexel is kind of a mixed engineering business school. So I had a little bit of a mix in my pedigree when I was coming out of college. I have a marketing degree, but it's got a little engineering, at Drexel. That was the way Drexel was back then. I don't think it is now, but back in the day, you had to mix in some courses. So I wanted to start in something that was a little more, tech for 1980, but, techie instead of, just selling things and going straight down the marketing path. And I received an offer from a division of what at that time was one of the largest manufacturing machine tool builders in the country. It was called Warner and Swasey. There are a lot of alumni of Warner and Swasey that are still kicking about. The company is no longer around, but there's a lot of us. And I was offered the chance to do an apprentice program, which was very appealing to me. I actually know how to run some machinery, probably not modern machinery, but I certainly learned how to cut, how to use a punch press, how to do various things. And that was what attracted me to the industry to begin with. And then when I started as that trainee, through a series of happenstances, I ended up working on the IMTS show in 1980, and it immediately attracted me, the entire scene. A lot of people at that time were scared of trade shows because there was a little bit that went on behind the scenes that was movie-ish. But I, on the other hand, being a young single guy, absolutely loved every minute of it, and have spent the rest of my career either on the manufacturer's side, which I did for about 15 years. I was with Warner Swasey first, and then I moved on and was with Toyota Machinery USA. When they came to the United States, I was the third employee. And we built that company to where if you went to IMTS, they're right across from your Creators Lounge. They're now known as JTech. But that was my company. And I was there for the first 9 years as they started building before I decided to start pointing myself more toward taking over IMTS as my predecessor was retiring.
Well, I think it's kind of neat. You got to use your degree and you have to market an event. So you're constantly thinking about that as well as that side of the machinery. And so I think that is why, if y'all haven't been to this, y'all have to check it out. There's so many different floors. There's so many different segments, if you will, from the student summit to the innovation center. It was really remarkable. And so I think that brings it together. We're bringing the people together. I know that was a big part of this year. We wanted to talk about the people and the stories of manufacturing. And so from your perspective and building this grand event, you know, I know it started off something quite smaller, but today it's one of the largest events, if not the largest event in manufacturing for sure. Well, tell us about that journey.
Well, certainly when I took over, that was not the track that IMTS was on. IMTS had been a fairly well-known show in the machine tool industry. It had borders as to what was in the show. And as I was taking over, it was starting to kind of decline a little bit. And it had some very restrictive rules and some very restrictive kind of marketing covenants that they used to go by. And when I was recruited to take over, in one of my early conversations with my then new boss, I said, you know, if we're going to save this, if we're going to keep it growing, we've got to really change the character of the show. And we have completely morphed the show in the last 26 years that I don't think very many people who went to IMTS in the early 90s would recognize it now. It was very much a selling show. Just manufacturers came, sold their wares. That was it. Very simple decor. In fact, they had some rules: no hanging signs, 10-foot height limit on all the booths. I mean, it looked like a factory. And that was what they were going for. No offense to my predecessors, that wasn't what the era at the time wanted. But I didn't think that was going to work. And my goal for all these 26 years has been to make it the most exciting event, not in manufacturing, in anything to go to. And that's why you have Emerging Technology Center and everything you can imagine with hanging signs and marketing displays and you name it, we do it. We had our guy in a jetpack demonstrating his flying ability. We had pieces of things that are going to the moon on the Artemis project. We embraced 3D printing or additive manufacturing at a time when a lot of manufacturers were afraid of it. We did the very first ever 3D printed car, and we did it in the 6 days of the show already 6 years ago. Drove it out of McCormick Place when it was nothing but air when we arrived. Drove it out of McCormick Place and straight on to the Today Show the next week. So that was my goal, was to make this show relevant, exciting, and totally unmissable for manufacturers.
Yeah, and it really was just as you described it, beautiful in all different areas. One of the things that I loved about it being in media was all the different people that were interviewed from the main stage, and you saw it throughout the whole event. There were different monitors set up, so if you missed it, it was still playing. And so all the opportunities that you gave for people that were in the industry, I think it's phenomenal. And so kind of thinking back at that marketing media picture, that's what it's all about, and sharing their stories. And so y'all definitely did that. So one thing I am curious from your perspective is just what the future of manufacturing looks like. There's so many different avenues to go, but where do you see it going?
Well, I think the thing that we see more than anything else is that everything is connected. There's a term in the industry called the connected factory. It gets thrown about, means a lot of different things, but the connected factory, the connected manufacturing facility, the connected office, all of that is a big change from when I was first in the industry. We used to call it islands. Machines were islands. You had an operator, you told him what you wanted him to make, and he made it, more or less. He would kind of figure it out, and we'd have a lot of scrap, and now everything is becoming interconnected. Our theme for this past show was digital manufacturing implemented. And the meaning of that is that now, from the very start, I need a part, I need to design it. Okay, you get to work designing it. You then feed that through the system to your best manufacturing method, and then implement that all the way through to the end of the line. It's a total connection. And what it will mean in the future of manufacturing is we will be able to produce more, we'll be able to produce quicker, and results of this show really show that people are buying machinery now because the supply chain exposed that you just can't rely on things from overseas or anywhere in the world. You've got to have some sources closer to home, wherever home is. So that doesn't just happen. Our manufacturing technology industry, even if things slow down in the general economy, I do believe we are going to be strong for years because we've got a lot to make up for. We've got almost a generation that offshored a whole lot of this technology. It now has to be brought back, and we don't have the people, we don't have the machines, we don't have the technology. We are beginning to address all of those. We're addressing the technology. That's what IMTS is all about with the product. We're addressing the automation side of things with robotics and automation throughout machinery. And we're even addressing the people. That's why we're so committed to the Student Summit. And also to why you've made mention of it, we tell a lot of people stories, because I think manufacturing as a term is intimidating to people. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it means. So why would I want to go into it? But it's a lot different when it's what we've done, which is we tell the stories of manufacturers from a personal perspective. That's our new product. It's called IMTS Plus. IMTS Plus is an ongoing version of, it's a multimedia channel. It's all about manufacturing. It's stories, it's podcasts, it's written articles, it's everything. And that's how we keep the community engaged and tell stories, because through the Student Summit and through our ongoing outreach to show that people are doing this, we hope to attract the next generation and start to fill this huge gap in talent that we have right now.
Yeah. And you're doing it, like you said, it was clear. You could see it. You could see the children. I loved being there on Saturday where people came in. We're talking about, I mean, one person said, I came here 4 years ago and he was coming back and he was a student. I mean, he looked like, he was a high school student. And so if I think about 4 years before, he was just like a little kid, And so it was really, really inspiring to kind of just be walking the halls and hearing those things. And so you are doing it, you're making a difference. And I know that the people that you've been, bringing in and collaborating with is really making a difference out there. I could talk to you all day, but I know you're busy. So I want to just, open the floor and just say, is there anything else just while we've been talking that you want to make sure that you share with our audience?
Well, I think for sure, what we proved at IMTS was that manufacturing is and continues to be a community, and building that community back after a time period where you couldn't talk to your neighbor, you couldn't talk to people in manufacturing that could help you solve a problem. Those days are over. People are back, and the spirit of community was absolutely obvious at IMTS. You saw people hugging each other, which I got to tell you, I don't see that a lot on trade show floors. It was refreshing, it was interesting, it was fun, but it also shows that in order to advance, in order to bring manufacturing forward, we have to work as a community. We have to look at technology. We have to look at automation, and we have to bring new people in. So our community will strengthen over the next 2 years before we see IMTS 2024. And all that time, we'll see everybody. One of our lines for IMTS Plus is see you tomorrow. You don't have to wait 4 years. See you tomorrow.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I got to just do a little rapid fire just because I'm curious about what is your favorite book?
Oh, okay.
I know this is personal. This completely shift. I just want to know a little bit about you.
I'm a history guy. So kind of behind me is a whole bookshelf full of history books that I read. I am a big reader of American history, and I can't give you one, but I'll give you a series of books on George Washington that I think is one of my. I can never get tired of reading about old George.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and then favorite song or band?
Aerosmith.
Awesome. Awesome. And then best advice that you have ever received.
Um, keep going, keep plugging. Things will, and that really coming in the trade show background now, after all these years working in trade shows, nothing is for sure except that things will go wrong at a trade show. If you let things bug you, bother you, knock you down, slow you up, it's just not, that's a microcosm of things in life and your career. Things are going to go wrong. Very few people get to skate through. You just find things that go wrong and say, okay, I got to regroup and figure it out. And what do we do next? We've been doing that for the last month at IMTS. Believe it or not, as great as that looked, there were days, there were definitely days where we had to fix things.
Yeah. And you had a great team. I met several of them too, and just having those people to support you. And so, okay, last one is just if there's a young person kind of thinking about this industry, what advice would you give them?
Don't wait. Find out right away. You can contact us via our IMTS.com website. We'll help you. Your local community college, investigate career paths going into manufacturing. It's good paying. It's challenging. It's interesting. Don't wait. It's never too early to start asking questions, because as you mentioned, we have kids that came to Student Summit when they were 6 or 8. And they're back for the 4 years later, and 2 years after that, and 2 years after that. And they're on the path. They are absolutely on the path toward a really productive career. And, some are college bound and some are not. Some are going to be working in productive manufacturing facilities in a really short time. So find what makes you excited and pursue it. And we'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Peter. Absolutely love this interview. It's Manufacturing Month, as this is going to go out October. And I'm so happy that I got to spend this time with you today. And like you said, you're a resource, and we'll definitely put all of that information in the show notes for everyone and how they can stay connected. Thank you so much, Peter.
You're very welcome. Let's do it again.
Yeah.